December the 13th, I woke up this morning and had a Hungarian sausage with 2 eggs, and then jumped in the car and took a trip down to a place called Villadoid. I don't know the exact pronunciation. I passed through this town on my trips down south and never actually stopped to try and pronounce properly the name. It reminds me of Valhalla. Do you remember Valhalla? That's where you go after a lifetime of rape and pillaging, but only if you're a Viking. Speaking of Vikings, or to put it another way, an ability to be able to disassociate yourself from stupid feelings that don't serve you. So, let me put this in context. Today I bought a bicycle for my son because it's Christmas. His birthday is on Christmas Day. I am about a year out of the relationship with his mother. And generally, both me and her, although she would have difficulty admitting that, both feel better in our own skin. We were arguing too much and it had become toxic. But the thought processing, right? Now keep in mind that typically a human has 70,000 thoughts a day, 90% of which is regurgitated bullshit. You're having the same toxic thoughts over and over again. And I certainly can back that up, having felt the it's not anguish, it's not resentment, it's barely even bereavement, because people do say you bereave when you come out of a relationship. It's actually guilt. That's what I feel. And it's guilt mostly around my son, but also guilt because my son's mother, as she says, and this is one of the problems, has been abandoned. Now, I had a good conversation with this fella this morning about other people's shit. And he said, when somebody has an issue with you, that's their issue. That's something that they have to work through. It's got feck all to do with you. And so it's interesting that I had that conversation, and now fast forward 15 hours, I'm pulled in at the side of the road. I just left my son at his house, his mother's house. I do all the right things as a father. I'm trying to co-parent as effectively as possible, given that there's still a lot of hostility on her end. Although it's fading, she still finds it very difficult to just be pleasant. I mean, she is pleasant quite a lot of the time, but I feel guilty. When I mentioned it to my mum, wait till you see this. Here's big fat first world man weighing himself on the scales, walking through his overpriced gym, right? And then he sticks his phone out the window. Look at these poor devils. Your man doesn't even have enough money to afford a pair of swimming trunks. Well, I say your man. That kid, his parents should be able to get the swimming trunks. But then watch this. Underneath that bridge, there's a family. And you mightn't see it in this video, but there's a large cluster of hot air balloons. I often see these guys walking around town with clutching a big, what would you call it? A big load of hot air balloons. Anyway, such first world problems. Here's me feeling guilty. I just bought my son a bike. I live up around the corner. I live 15 minutes from his house. I pick him up on a daily basis. and these poor devils are living underneath a bridge. Imagine that father, how he feels when he has to go out selling hot air balloons. How much profit does he get from selling hot air balloons? And the fact that he has to go back then and say, fuck it, I live underneath the bridge. So it's tomatoes, tomatoes. Is that the right word? No, that's not even the right expression. The thing is, two people sometimes cannot be together. It's an incompatibility. And the logic in that, right, which comes from your prefrontal cortex, right? Your prefrontal cortex will always think logically. That is always going to be in conflict with your lymphic cord. So that's where the bullshit comes from. Oh, I should be in a toxic relationship. I should try harder to make the relationship work. And the long story short is that 95% of the time I don't feel guilty. And in fact, I do feel more comfortable in my own skin, and I know she feels that way too. And many people have said it to me. I look like somebody had said to me recently, just keep on doing what you're doing and don't overthink everything. So that's the crack now, says she with one leg up on the table. I'm glad I got that little rant. Here's him on the bike. Look at that. That bike cost $60, which isn't much. And then I think about how many hot air balloons would the father who lives underneath the bridge outside my gym have had to sell in order to be able to buy a bike like this for his kid or kids.